given up a job, I'd love to go.
What's that?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight is May 5th, 2025. We are at the regularly scheduled Finance Committee meeting, and it is 6:05. Present at the committee meeting tonight, we have Chair Beck, Chair Fournier, Chair Dean.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Boy, I
That's
bet.
no longer, yeah. We're all chairs.
I'm out. See ya. Good luck.
And Councillor Trumbull is not able to be with us tonight. We also have present tonight Councillor Mallett, Councillor Leonard, and Chair Pelletier, as well as Councillor Haas. With us tonight is also our David, oh my goodness, I must have David, our finance director.
I understand long days.
Okay. Now, we do have the agenda tonight, and it looks like the first thing on our agenda is tree cutting and stump finding. Who's bid for that?
Our first bid tonight is for Public Works for tree cutting and stump grinding. We did go out to bid for this, received 5 bidders for cutting, 4 bidders for stump grinding. The low bidder for tree cutting had multiple changes that they wanted to make to the contract that we were not comfortable with. So the recommendation is to go with the second lowest bidder, who is our current contract. The second lowest bidder was our current contract, who we've had issues with as well. So our recommendation is to go with the third lowest bidder, which is Gannett Tree and Lawn Care. For stump grinding, Main Tree Service is our current provider. They were the low bidder. We're happy with their service, so we want to split the bid between tree cutting and stump grinding. So again, to the third lowest bidder, Gannett Tree and Lawn Care, due to issues with our current vendor that we have been unable to resolve. The lowest bidder asking for changes to the contract that we are not comfortable with. And the low bidder for stump grinding, combined, it's about $57,000 a year, which is part of the Public Works operational budget.
Do we have any questions or comments? And you need a motion for this to.
Yeah, just for approval.
Okay.
Make
do I have a
motion.
Motion. Second. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item tonight is for an electric vehicle, through our business and economic development. This would be part of our internal fleet, that we use for staff to attend conferences, and go to meetings. The city was awarded a grant through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant for $35,000 that could be used to pay for an electric vehicle. We did go out to bid. We received 5 responses. It's a little odd that the recommendation is to go with the highest priced vehicle when you look at the straight price. The reason for that is the Chevy Equinox has the highest mileage per charge, which was critical when the staff is going to other towns that may or may not have available charging stations. We want them to be able to get home without waiting a long time to get back. In addition, the Chevy Equinox is also eligible for a $7,500 federal credit. It was the only one of the 5 that is eligible for that. So the net cost to the city drops down to $3,489, which would be paid for out of the Climate Action Fund. Again, that would make it the lowest vehicle except for the Hyundai Conda, which in theory would be free due to the $35,000 grant, but the 180-day waiting period for that vehicle, as well as the lesser mileage and longer charging times, was kind of why we ruled that out. So we're looking for approval to move forward with that purchase, and apply the grant money, which has already gone to council and been approved, to add that to the fleet.
Councilor Mellon?
Question. I'm curious as to if charge time or mileage per charge was an essential consideration. Why wasn't that in the original bid? It seems like I don't like having a bid and then adding and changing things after the bids have been done. So why wasn't that one of the inclusions in the bid?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure if we have an actual answer, Public Works Director Aaron Hootery.
Make an attempt. Aaron Hootery, Public Works. So we didn't want to eliminate any bids, but there wasn't a minimum distance because the conferences or meetings that we would go to vary wildly.
All right,
But at the same time, once we did get the bids, we don't want to take a lesser where we're gonna have to stop and charge mid-route, that type of thing.
but
But-
it just seems inconsistent, that's all. Did you go back to the people that bid and said, do you have something with X amount? You know, I just don't like that. But I understand why you did it, but I don't have to like it even. you know.
Yeah, understood. I hope my answer makes sense.
Yeah, oh yeah, it does. I understand why you obviously want the most mileage you can get. But for me, that would have been the priority in asking the bid. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I guess the question I have is, so in the RFP itself, was that included, hey, here's the, make sure I'm understanding. You know, you don't want to stop, you know, this is exactly what you need, so these are the vehicles that have to meet this. I want to make sure that, the people who did bid understood these are the needs and they put forward these other cards anyway, or?
We did not put a minimum mileage requirement. And
Since I helped draft the RFP, we did say a minimum, I think 250, but I did say 300 preferred. So they were aware that we had a preference.
yeah.
for that.
thank you.
Yeah.
For that clarification.
Director of Planning.
Yeah.
Okay, so to understand, in other words, you did tell them, this is what we're looking for, and they said, hey, we got this car that, could kind of do maybe. And then looking over what you got, you're saying, hey, this is not gonna meet what we need. Okay,
Good.
appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. I didn't realize.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Shipping costs.
Council Fund?
There wasn't any, right? That's
Yeah.
included.
That's delivered, yeah.
That's delivered.
Yeah.
Great. Super. You want a motion?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second. Second. Thank you. Uniforms.
Thank you. Our next item is uniforms for Public Works and Fleet Services. We did go out to bid for uniforms. There were two responders, Cintas and UniFirst. I believe UniFirst is our current provider, yes. And looking at the prices that were proposed, UniFirst was the low bidder. The estimated cost based upon the variety of various things that we would purchase as far as uniforms and different styles. The estimated cost is about $49,000 a year, but that is split with the employees. The city pays 75% and the employees pay 25%, so the city cost would be around $36,000, which is within the Public Works and the Fleet operating budget that they plan for that each year. Includes various jeans, t-shirts, brightly lit vests, shirts, jackets, those types of things. So we're looking for approval to move forward with UniFirst for uniforms for Fleet and Public Works.
Okay, any questions? Comments? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. We have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is for security access control system at the airport. We did go out to bid. We received 5 responses. The recommendation is to go with the second lowest bidder, which is Johnson Controls. The lowest bidder, TEC Solutions, didn't provide all of the documentation that we had asked for during the bid process, but more importantly, they did not bid to install any of the equipment. We would have to then pay another vendor to install their equipment. And that was one that would require a different bid plus additional expertise. So the recommendation is to go with Johnson Controls at $300,000. There was an approved budget amount of $500 for this project at the airport, so it is within the budget process. And they are the low bidder, so looking for approval to move forward with this. And this would go to full council next week for final approval once it is over the 250 limit.
It's Council Palace.
I know I'm not on this committee, but if it comes to full council, I will be. Johnson Controls is one of my clients,
Okay.
so I will need to recuse myself.
Do we have any other questions or comments? We have a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay.
Thank you. Our next item tonight is for a hybrid ADA van for the community connector. As part of being a public transportation provider, we are required to provide ADA paratransit services. As some committee members, and council members may remember from prior meetings, in order to meet the regulations, we are required to meet 100% of the demand for ADA paratransit rides. And that has, increased over the years, and as such, it increases our need to have additional vehicles available for that use. In 2024, Maine DOT offered some discretionary funding to the city. It was $467,327. We use that money for the purpose of conducting additional CDL training to try to obtain additional bus drivers. But it was also, part of the money was set aside to purchase two either electric or hybrid vehicles, and this van is one of those two. It's 100% funded by the Maine DOT. Federal regulations for FTA type purchases require that anything over $250,000 be put out to a formal bid process. If it's under $250,000, you meet federal regulations by doing a good faith effort to obtain just quotes regarding what you're purchasing. If we do a formal bid process, which typically that would, from the city's perspective, would require a formal bid process under our normal purchasing for other departments. If we do that in relation to FTA funded projects or grant funded projects that are flowed through the FTA, we then subject ourselves to all of the federal requirements for those. That would be all the normal federal provisions for FTA grants, the Davis-Bacon minimum wage, the equal opportunity, as well as gathering expenses, tracking it throughout the process. It creates a significant administrative burden to staff, which at a federal level, they say is not needed because anything under $250 at the federal level is considered essentially a small purchase. So to meet the good faith requirements, we reached out to 5 organizations who all sell ADA vans. Of those 5, only 2 responded, and of the 2 that responded, one of them responded that they didn't have any electric or hybrid accessible vans available. So it left us with one responsive quote, which was from Mobility Works in Herman. They proposed a new 2025 Toyota hybrid that was ADA compliant with the side entry with a full 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty for $85,000. That $85,000 was a reasonable price based upon vans that we have purchased in the past. It's in line with the Penobscot Climate Action Plan as well as the state of Maine goals in reducing carbon footprints. So staff is recommending to move forward with the purchase of this using the Maine DOT grant funds. As I said, it is 100% funded with Maine DOT, so there's no city money being used for this purchase.
Do you have any questions? When will we get the van?
The van is available now if it gets approved.
Oh, very
It'll
good.
be in service within days, maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, maybe. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Our next item tonight is on the paid family medical leave. For a quick background for everyone, starting January of 2025, the city was required under a new state law to start withholding a total of 1% from employees' weekly gross wages to fund a paid family medical leave pool through the state that would allow eligible employees to take up to 12 weeks of paid time off for medical or other qualifying events. It required all employers throughout the state to withhold that fund and collect that funds and send it to the state. And employees could begin using the program in May of 2026. Essentially, what we're doing now is pre-funding a pool of money that will be used statewide at the state level. The program also allowed employers to seek out and enter into a private plan, which would then be limited to just City of Bangor, as opposed to us essentially funding money into a pool that could be used by all employers. So we asked our insurance and consultant to look into the viability of a private plan for the city. They reached out to 5 providers. All providers that would offer private plan had to be pre-approved by the state. So the state's already vetted the companies and said that, yes, these offer a plan that is either equal to or substantially equal to the plan that we are requiring you to offer. So they reached out to 5, the Standard, Symetra, ARC Insurance, New York Life, and Unum. The rates ranged from 0.885% to 1.638%. The Standard was the lowest at 0.885. We had a staff with HR as well as finance met with our insurance consultant. We discussed the various plans, including the state plan, and the recommendation was that the city look to move toward a private plan with the Standard at 0.885%. If we submit an application to the state of Maine that is approved before the end of this month, what that would do is it essentially exempts us and freezes us in from having to withhold or pay in any more money to the state, except for the first quarter that we've already submitted. So essentially, we could stop withholding from both the employees and the city share. The city is currently picking up both sides of that, so we could stop collecting that money until May of 2026. Gives us essentially a 13-month exemption period based on how they do their weird math. But it's essentially, for the next 12 months, we wouldn't have to deduct anything. Then when we pick back up deductions in May of 26, we'd be at the lower 0.885%, and we would be submitting our money to the Standard instead of the state of Maine. Over a 3-year period, the 0.88 with the Standard would be locked in until December of 2027. That is when the state has determined they will reevaluate their rate to see whether or not they need to change it from 1% or something else. So we're locked into that same time period. If the estimate is over the 3-year period that covers, the city will save nearly $850,000 in these withholdings that need to be remitted to the state. So we would like to move forward with submitting an application to the state for the program, as well as entering into a contract with the Standard to be locked in at the 0.885% from May of 26 until December of 27. If approved tonight to move forward, this will be on full council for next week as well.
Councilor Dean?
What happens to the first quarter?
First quarter has already been submitted. There's no refunds from the state. So that money is now in the state's pool and will stay in the state's pool. If we were able to get our application approved before the end of the month, which if it goes through tonight and next council, we have time to do that. If we miss that window, we would also have to pay the second quarter as well, and then try again for the third quarter. So that's why we're trying to get this in, assuming the council is on board with it. But yeah, the first quarter that we've already submitted, that's money to the state to help with the pool.
Any other questions? Councilor Leonard?
Besides the lowered rate of payment that we're giving, what benefits are we potentially losing that we currently have with our arrangement with the state? And what will we potentially be gaining with this private insurance plan?
There's nothing that I'm aware of that we would be potentially losing. The unknowns, even at the state level now, as well as private plans, are what type of and how much administrative work the employers need to do. The state is sort of still working that out, and until employees start filing for the plan, which can't happen until May of 26, we don't really know how much burden is going to fall back on the employer as far as reporting purposes and that type of stuff. We do know that a portion of the funding that an employee gets from the plan is potentially taxable to them. Some of it could be non-taxable depending on the use of the plan. Other parts of it could be taxable. There is an unknown at the moment as to who is going to handle that. We do know with the private plan going in, that we could pay the private plan an additional fee and they would handle the tax reporting and the W-2s. The fee that they offered, based on staff, and I agree, is too much for us. We can do that. If they report to us who received the money, we can adjust that when we do our W-2s here. There's gonna be some administrative burden here. After the first year in May, in December of 26, when we're doing W-2s, we might have a different feeling on it. But based on what we know now, we think that we can absorb that piece of it without paying the fee, because the fee that they would charge us would be on the full amount of our payroll, which not all of the payroll that we submit is going to be taxable to the employee. So we're essentially paying an additional administrative fee to them that I don't think, and other staff and HR includes, thinks that we don't need to pay at this time. So we can't really fully say because the program's too new for us to know for sure, but we're comfortable that the savings that we can get paying 0.885 instead of 1% gives us some leeway there to deal with those administrative burdens if we needed to.
And we're gonna be able to handle those administrative burdens ourselves.
We believe so at this time, based on what we are aware of needs to be done, but some of it is still unknown and not decided by the state with final rulings.
Okay,
Any other questions? So, we need a motion, be able to make the application and move forward.
So moved. I'll second.
Thank you. So this will be on next council for next week. Our last item night is going to be an executive session for disposition of property.
Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Can I ask a question before we go into executive session? Just an update on.
Yeah, I reached out to the auditors today. It's being worked on. I'm gonna reach out tomorrow. I didn't get as a detailed response as I was hoping for as far exactly where they are, getting it to tech review. So I will be reaching back out to them tomorrow. There's been no new issues that I'm aware of, so I'm hoping it's on the tail end of the review, but I will get confirmation.
Thanks, appreciate that. I'll make a motion, we go into executive session 405-6C, disposition of real property.
Okay, and, let me take a roll call. Counselor Beck,
Yes.
Counselor Dean,
Yes.
Counselor Fournier,
Yes.
and myself would be a yes.
Thank you.
So you don't want to
I'm just gonna make a motion that we.
Yep, we're out.
Accept.
Brown, can I have a motion for executive session?
I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I think that concludes.
Yes,
our-
thank you. So that'll be on full council for next week. And that is all I have for tonight's meeting.
That's-
Thank you.